we'll start this session probably in 2 minutes time from now. So once again, welcome everyone. I think we're all set to get this interesting webinar started. So today's topic we have building a scalable and profitable SaaS business model. Well, with the increasing trend in on-demand consumption, SaaS business model has started becoming the de facto standard for delivering products. While this is a great boon for ISVs to tap the SMB segment, the small and medium business segment, but this business model also has inherent challenges. Now, keeping the business problem being addressed by the product aside, on a broader scale, all the challenges can be summed in 2 words, which is what we have here, the scalable and profitable, 2 words. Now, ISVs that have understood and acted on these 2 challenges are the ones that are able to survive on the long run. So in today's webinar, we are going to discuss on the challenges and solutions involved in building a scalable and a profitable SaaS business. So before we get going, some housekeeping instructions. All the phone lines are set to mute, so if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat window. We'll take a note of the same and we'll answer it towards the end of the session during the Q&A part of it. And in case if you are not able to answer some of the questions due to lack of time, we will email you the answers as well. So this is a brief agenda for today's session. We'll get a brief look into the SaaS business model just to be sure if we have the right context. And we'll also interestingly look into some of the blind spots in a SaaS industry, right? Followed by a SaaS lifecycle, what does it mean and what all does it encompass, and a series of challenges and solutions in 3 segments, 1 involving business management, 2 customer service, and 3 product engineering. And we'll also give a few highlights about Cello and how Cello can actually address in solving some of these challenges and the benefits that comes out of it. And towards the end, we'll take up the Q&A session as well. Today we have 2 speakers. So myself, I'm Janaki Jayachandran, Director of Technology. I'm a regular speaker in many of the cloud events and SaaS events, including the NASCOM and Cloud Connect. So I have over 15 years of experience, and I've been part of the Cello framework, and I've been closely following the SaaS and the cloud industry itself. And I also provide strategies for ISVs in defining their cloud strategy. We also have another speaker today, Jyoti Rengarajan, who is the Chief Technical Architect. So she has extensive experience in architecting several cloud and SaaS solutions, and she is also the key behind constructing the entire Cello SaaS framework, which some of it you will get some insights today in this webinar. And she also plays a consultative role with several customers in implementing the SaaS solutions. So without further delay, we'll get it right into the topic of today's webinar. And before we get into the details, let's ensure that we are clear about certain aspects of the SaaS, right? So I'm sure many of you are aware about the general concepts of SaaS, so I'm not going to be talking about it. Instead, I'm going to be highlighting some of the unique attributes of a SaaS business model so that it sets the context for the rest of the session, right? So 4 important things that I want to highlight here, starting with scale. Of course, one major difference between the traditional perpetual model and the SaaS is the fact around the number of customers that are going to be dealt with, right? So a classic example where in the one-time licensing model, you might probably have an average deal size of, let's say, $50,000 US dollars, right? And let's say your license target for the year is 600,000. That is approximately 12 customers you will have to acquire over a period of 1 year, right? Which is pretty much 1 customer per month. On the other hand, if you take the same numbers, and taking that $600,000 to be met in a period of 1 year, let's assume your average monthly customer cost is going to be 2,000 USD. Then you would approximately need 25 customers from day 1 to meet the same target. So a simple comparison, you're talking about 1 customer acquiring 1 customer per month versus starting with 25 customers on day 1 and continuing them through the rest of the year. So that's a substantial change of the way in which the scale of customers are going to be handled. And it's equally important to retain these customers through the entire period so that you can actually realize their revenues that are planned for that particular year. Now, having said that, churn is inevitable, particularly in the consumer model of business, and hence you will have to get even more customers to counter the churn effect and meet the target. Therefore, by design, you should expect more customers, and this is one of the reasons why SMB segment is being targeted by SaaS products. On the revenue front, from the example I just quoted earlier, it's very clear that you're going to get only $2,000 per month from the same customer that was providing you a lump sum of $50,000. Now, this scenario completely changes your spending power. Right? In addition to this, your primary target being SMB segment, you are forced to provide attractive and flexible pricing models to create their interest. On the other hand, if you want to increase this $2,000 per month, then the only way is to add more features and upsell it to your customers. Okay? On the infrastructure front, the traditional perpetual licensing model had the benefits of shelfware where ISVs actually not worry about the infrastructure aspects of how the product is installed, managed, right? But in the case of a SaaS, it's the other way around where your customer is not going to be any more worried about the software or hardware portion of it. This is a big and new responsibility on the shoulders of an ISV. And not to forget that this infrastructure need is only going to keep increasing as you get more customers. And in addition to this, the security and availability of the product becomes standard questions posed by potential leads. And having a convincing answer is required for you to move them into the sales cycle. On the operations front, the service aspects of SaaS business model is pretty much confined by the SLA terms. So the entire organization has to be aligned to meet these SLAs. And with multifold increase in customer base, your tech support teams should expect the tickets volume to increase proportionately. And finally, when it comes to receiving payments, what used to be a simple job of one invoice for, let's say, $50,000 now becomes $2,000 every month for every customer. So considering these unique attributes, the question to be asked is, how complete is your SaaS solution in meeting all these needs that are arising due to the unique nature of a SaaS model? So let's look at what do we mean by the term complete. So I couldn't find a better term to refer this slide as blind spots. Because what happens when an ISV decides to build or migrate their existing SaaS solution, this is a typical phase they go through, which basically starts with an idea or an existing product, and followed by a technical feasibility, a POC to see if it can be actually delivered in the SaaS model, and then they go through the architecture phase, development or migration, and finally the testing and deployment, of course on any cloud. Now once it's deployed, ISVs think they have the solution and the solution is ready and they are on SaaS now. But in reality, ISVs typically tend to overlook two other important areas. And those areas are one, the selling of the solution itself, and two, the servicing of the solution to the customers. Now the typical question that is thrown back at me whenever I talk about this slide is, what has my solution got to do with selling and servicing? Well, the answer is quite evident from the fact that these two factors straight away determine your profitability. How? Well, selling brings money to your pocket and servicing takes it out. So the net of this is what is left on the table, and therefore when we talk about a complete solution, it should have certain aspects in it that can help in the selling and servicing areas of your SaaS business. Let's take a look at another slide that can throw some more light on this. So let's look at the typical budget splitter for an ISV in SaaS model. Your sales and marketing and customer service typically is around 30% mark. The R&D and administration is around 15% mark each, which leaves a profit margin of around 10%. Right? And you should also note that the customer service includes all the costs for delivering the service to customer, which typically includes your hardware, license cost, tools cost, technical support, and account management. And it's interesting to note that even large players like Salesforce.com operate at 30% of the customer service cost, or in other words, the cost of delivery. Right? Which means for a smaller player, this number could be even lower. And if you apply these numbers on a sample data, just to get a feel of what numbers are we talking about. So this is a table that shows revenue figures by month, and considering an average revenue by customer as $2,000 per customer per month, and with a 10% month-on-month growth, if you look at the budget availability for providing your cost of delivery or providing your customer services, ranges anywhere between $6,000 to $17,000 USD. And as you can imagine, these are pretty tight numbers to manage. So on one end, you have the challenge of getting more customers. On the other hand, you are also having problems related to servicing them because of this tight number. So this picture gives you a holistic view of the various stages or phases that happen in a typical SaaS environment. Well, it starts with creating your product subscriptions against which your customers may register or subscribe to. And once they sign up, you need to bring them on board into the system, which will require a series of configurations, setting up of security measures, getting users on board, and defining their usage policies. And once this is done, you will constantly monitor them for usage, audits, and specific actions like data backup. For each subscription period, you will have to raise the bill and also collect the payments from the customer. And finally, you would like your customers to upgrade or renew their subscriptions. Now, this being the life cycle of a SaaS model, let's look at what the needs are from various stakeholders to support this life cycle. We look at three important stakeholders within the ISV, the management team, and what they need is an error-free, inefficient mechanism through which they can provide innovative subscription models, pricing models to the end users. The customer service team, they look for a quick and cost-effective way to roll out new customers. And they will also need a way to tackle the increasing number of product support tickets, and also need a mechanism to monitor the product so that they can take some proactive steps. And the product engineering team, their single focus goal is to build a high-speed system that is highly scalable and secure. Now, the interesting question to ask is, do these needs differ from ISV to ISV or company to company? The answer is not really. If you had noticed the SaaS lifecycle picture we saw earlier and the needs that we are seeing now, they do not actually talk anything about the product itself. Rather, it talks about how the product is managed and delivered. and therefore the needs pretty much remain the same between ISVs. So Cello actually noticed this few years back. So around 3 years back, Cello identified the needs of an ISV in order to service the end-to-end SaaS lifecycle. And from the picture you see here, any product which you are either planning to build or currently you may have, Cello provides 3 additional rings around it, where each of these rings takes care of the SaaS lifecycle needs that we saw earlier. So to start with, the innermost ring is about adding capability to your product to support non-functional requirements like scalability, configurability, security, and also allow you to design your features in a way that it is easily customizable. The middle ring contains features that can help your technical support team in customer implementations as well as addressing their service requests. And the outermost ring provides the business management capabilities to handle subscription, pricing, invoicing, and payments. So Cello has modularized and packaged all these common needs as an out-of-box solution which can easily plug into your product. And what happens, or what it addresses towards solving it, is each of the stakeholders now start getting their solutions addressed, their needs addressed, where the management team is equipped with the executive dashboard and monetization tools which can completely control and operate the subscription and revenue collection of their product. Similarly, the customer service team can have most of their typical customer service requests automated, and hence the service team can take up more requests and process them in a much faster way. And also, in addition to the self-service portals, can also allow the end users to satisfy many of their simple requests without even having to come back to the tech support team. And finally, the product engineering team is equipped with the engineering stack supporting all the non-functional requirements. And it also helps in cutting down a significant amount of development time, resulting in faster time to market. Now, these are the direct outcomes of it, but let's delve into more on the challenges on each of these 3 areas, which is the business management, the customer service, and product engineering. And we'll also look at some of the solutions that are generally applied in the industry. The business management challenges. Now, these are the questions that any management team will be interested to find answers. And as you can notice, all these questions boil down to selling and increasing the revenue inflow. Given the nature of a SaaS business, you do not have the budget or time for long sales cycles. So therefore, how do I shorten my sales cycle? Now, how do I provide attractive and meaningful subscription models to my customers? For example, instead of offering a subscription as, say, we provide 10 GB of storage. For some customers, this might sound attractive, but for some other customers, what could be more attractive is you can store up to 3,000 photos. So it's the same, the solution, but the way you want to take it to your customers may differ, right? So it boils down to a simple change button could be very effective. Similarly, how can I influence my decision makers, which is basically the leads who are trying my product on a trial mode? How can I influence them so that I can convert more of these trials to actual paying customers? And how can I equip my sales team to go and do more meaningful upsell? So instead of blindly going and trying to sell something to my customers, how can I provide them with insightful data which could be used to do some meaningful upsell? And how do I find out customers who might probably be facing some sort of an issue and are on the verge of leaving? Because it's very important to control the churn and save those customers. And with the increasing customers, invoicing is going to take more and more effort. So doing this manually is going to take more time and is also going to be error prone. So how do I cost effectively manage my invoicing and payment process? And I might also have resellers, so how do I manage them? Because now my solution is centralized and it's available with me. How do my resellers are going to be able to access, and then how are they going to in turn sell it to the end customers? These are some of the industry best practices towards addressing the challenges we saw in the earlier slide. Right? So SaaS solutions today have reached the levels where you can sign up and start using the trial in less than 2 minutes. Now, offering self-registration capability and availability of your product in a live trial mode can really help in cutting down the sales cycle. Similarly, having module-wise access of the product will also allow the customer to pick and choose the modules that they would like to use. So instead of offering them one fixed solution, suppose fitting, rather you can allow the customers to pick and choose what they like to use. And you can also price these modules depending on the individual modules and not as a package, so that it can benefit both ISV and the customers. So just to get an understanding, let's look at some of the subscription models that could possibly be available. So assuming this being your SaaS solution, you might end up having different tenants, and you might also have some resellers in the system, right? So let's take the first tenant A, and what this tenant has got is a set of modules. Let's say he has got XYZ modules for a flat cost of $100 per month, and the payment terms for this customer is going to be on a prepaid model, which means at the start of the month you will be billing this customer $100 to use the modules XYZ for a period of 1 month. Similarly, tenant B has the same module, but this tenant is interested in paying the subscription on a usage mode instead of a flat cost. So you may still have a retainer fee kind of a flat cost, which is like $25, and then charge them based on the usage. For example, it could be $1 per transaction. So if this tenant uses, let's say, 50 transactions per month, then they are going to pay this $25 plus 50, which is $75. On another month, it could be 150 transactions. So it will be 25 plus 150, $175. So it's going to keep varying from month to month. So compared to the earlier case, it's a flat cost, 100 every month, but here it's going to keep varying. And moving on to another tenant, they have chosen a different set of modules. They are on flat cost, but then they are on a trial mode. So which means your SaaS solution should be able to differentiate this tenant as being in trial mode, and not be able to charge them, right? It should be able to differentiate between a paying customer and a non-paying customer, and accordingly being able to generate your invoices. And similarly, you may have a reseller who might probably be given a set of modules to resell. Now you can also control what they can resell here. I may probably want a reseller to just focus on ABC modules. Maybe for that particular geography it makes sense. So I can do the controlling. And here the way you may want to collect the revenue could be based on a percentage cut. So it could be, for example, a commission of 20% on the total sales value from this reseller. Similarly, tenant D could probably choose only one module where you may probably apply a usage restriction. So let's say this tenant D can send or perform only 50 transactions in a month, and beyond that they should not be able to do anything. So that's a usage restriction which comes into picture, and the flat cost is applied here, but payment here could be postpaid. Right? So if you look at this picture, the various color-coded items are basically different attributes that can actually constitute in a subscription solution. And your SaaS solution should be able to address each of these attributes and handle it accordingly. So similarly, when it comes to the pricing model, the usage-based pricing is another option where the customer will pay for what they've used, like we saw earlier. So some examples around that could be a typical SaaS product looking at like a trading system could be charged based on number of traders. On the other hand, the supply chain management need not worry about the number of users. I don't care how many users are going to use, but then I'm going to look at the total value of transactions that I've done. So if I have procured items worth, let's say $10,000, then I would probably apply a percentage on that $10,000. So here the number of users doesn't matter, or how many individual invoices have been generated doesn't matter, right? It's the total value that matters. So each of the systems can have their own pricing models, what we also call as the value pricing models, which can easily reach out to your customers. That way it sounds very attractive and it makes a lot of business sense for them to consume your product. And also keeping track of who's using your product and who's not using your product can really help you in taking proactive measures, so that, for example, your sales team can go all out on the ones that are hot. So trials that are using your system more or showing more keen on your system are the ones they can really chase and close quickly. And on the other hand, you might also look at some of the leads. They might have signed up, but they are not using your product as extensive as you would want them to. So maybe they are hitting a roadblock or they are experiencing some difficulty. You don't know. So it's better to reach out to them and find out what's stopping them from using it. So that way you are increasing your chances of closure and conversion rate. Similarly, your invoice generation can be completely automated. So we saw there are so many attributes involved, and hence doing this process manually is really going to be time consuming and it's going to take a lot of effort. So a simple automation of the invoice process can really cut down a significant amount of time, and it can be totally error free. And allowing your customers to register their credit card or a PayPal account for automatic debit can also save a good amount of time for both you and the customer. Because on a month-on-month basis, your customers, they would not like to take the pain of going and then making a payment, remembering it and doing it. So instead, an automatic way of debiting is something that they would also like to have. And finally, the self-service customer portal and reseller portals can really help you in keeping track of your customers as well as your resellers. So as we discussed earlier, many of these solutions are already addressed in Cello, and these are the features available in Cello's business edition particularly. And as you could see, the business edition encompasses all the solutions just discussed, starting with the subscription related features, which allows you to publish multiple subscriptions, multiple price plans. You can also have a combination of pricing plans, which can also vary from tenant to tenant. Similarly, the customer management features can provide you with the customer analytic information to handle your leads and customers. And the invoice generation can be completely automated with support for metering and proration. And for payments, all major credit cards and PayPal accounts are supported. Let's take a quick snapshot of how these can actually be helpful to be available as part of your product. So this is a customer analytics screen, for example. So I can see this is a list of all the trials needing attention, which means for some reason this list of customers are not using the system as extensive as I would like them to use. So there are these attributes available which can allow me to go and play around and then look at their visit frequency and then determine who's probably using and who's not using it, and accordingly I can go and talk to them or consult them. This is a billing dashboard. I can see a complete history of how the revenues are flowing through month on month. I can also look at my top paying customers, how they are performing. I can see the complete trend of all the customers year on year and how I'm performing. And I can also keep track of all the bills and the overdues that are currently available. So with increasing customers, this dashboard becomes extremely vital and easy for me to operate on. This is a view from a customer portal perspective. So when a end customer logs in, they can see their own account information, right? So they can see their current bill charges. So from the start of this month to date, whatever I have consumed or used, I can see the charges being applied here. And I can also see a complete history of all the payments and the invoices in the past. So this gives a complete transparency for the end users and hence increases more confidence on the service provider. This is an example of an auto-generated invoice. So that covers the business management portions of it. And before we move on to the next segment, we'd like to do a quick poll. And we'll probably take a couple of minutes to quickly complete this poll, and I'm going to launch 4 questions one by one, and you can probably quickly provide your answers to it, and then we will share that with this group. So the first question is around whether your SaaS solution that you're currently planning to build or you might already have, so that would address the needs of the servicing and selling related capabilities. We'll probably wait for a few more seconds before we close this. Yeah, so we'll move on to the next one. What would be the budget for your customer service related capabilities? So once again, we'll give a few more seconds before we close it out. Okay, we close that one. We'll move to the third question, which is your expected time frame to achieve a break-even in your SaaS business. We'll give you more seconds. We're getting some interesting responses here. Okay, so we'll close that one and we'll move to the last question of this poll. Which is, what do you think is the primary reason for customers leaving a subscription? We're almost through. We'll give a few more seconds. Still some more people are making up their minds. Alright, so that's an interesting response that we have got. We'll quickly share these things with the audiences. So this is the last question. We have the responses. So interestingly, we have around 31% indicating competitors have persuaded them to switch, and then followed by customer not being happy with the product functionality and feature, then followed by the service dissatisfaction. We share the other question we have, the expected break-even time, and so many of them indicated around 2 to 3 years as a period, which typically is the expectation as well. But yeah, once again, the idea is to how you can be more profitable. That way, you can have this break-even period advanced a bit. So probably make it 2 years or maybe even lesser than that. And what would be your budget for customer service? So I think we have equal split between 10 to 20 and 20 to 30%. So like you mentioned, yes, 30% being the ideal figure, but many cases it could be less than 30%. And the last question is whether your current solution or the solution you're planning to build addresses the selling and servicing needs. So it's a very good percentage of yes, 51%, which really indicates that a lot of people have already thought through about this and they are planning to include these things in their product. It's a really good sign. So with that, we will move into the next segment, and I'm going to hand this over to Jyoti. Jyoti, all yours now.
Yeah, thanks, Janaki. Hi, everybody. So as Janaki mentioned, customer service is one of the very important functions of the SaaS business. As you can see, this team is solely responsible for reducing your customer churn rate. As per research in any business, around 65% of the customer loss is due to the improper customer service, and especially in a SaaS model, this loss called churn could prove devastating. While having a world-class customer service team is important, it is also important to know that in order for the SaaS business to be profitable, it is extremely necessary to curb this operational cost lesser than 30%. This 30% should also cover the expenses of hardware, software licenses, and so on, which then boils down to lesser than 20% available to be spent for customer service. The fact that SaaS is going to be a high volume game leaves with the customer service team handling many customers, and if not optimized, can lead to very high increased cost and also increased timeline as well. The more you're able to curb this cost, more profitable you're going to be. Hence, the customer service team, whose primary responsibility is to onboard new customers and also to service the existing ones, try very hard to find solutions for the challenges of how to onboard customers quickly, how to make customers use the system from day one, and avoid shelfware, the term used for customers not using the system. How to service a customer request better and faster on an ongoing basis, and how to keep in touch with the customers promptly, and how to constantly monitor if the system is performing well. To overcome all these challenges, the SaaS solution should typically aim at automation. Automate customer implementation cycle and enable self-service. Automate the customer communication process wherever necessary. Dashboards for system performance, and aim at zero delay usage of the system. These are some of the things that your customer service team can do, or your product could provide the customer service to operate efficiently. Conclusion is automation, right? So the best way to decrease implementation effort and cost is automation. Let's look at a typical implementation of a customer. So this is a big process. If the need across all the customers at all these stages are the same, and it is the way the SaaS solution is engineered, then automation is going to be an easy task. If not, it would turn out to be a nightmare, as it will start demanding more engineering effort. For example, in a CRM, assume there is a lead processing workflow. If it is same across all the customers and it's the way the system is engineered, then the stage is a simple tick and automation process. Say it varies from one customer to another. Then at that point is where you have to code for the new workflow, and you can imagine the cost of that implementation, and on top of that, the frustration is going to cause for the customer as how long he has to wait. This is the typical task list of a service team every day. You can imagine how many customer service engineers you will need to process these requests once you get decent number of customers. Not only is that going to increase the cost and time delay, it is also not going to be error-free, and hence you're going to be left with dissatisfied customers, eventually leading to churn. Then what is the way out? The best way is to target a configurable system having configurable workflows, extensible data capture screens, configurable reports, and so on, so that during implementation, your customers can themselves go and configure the system to their needs and start using it from day one. Cello's customer service related features exactly addresses these pain points. It offers the modules, completely configurable multi-tenant workflows that allows the tenants and the custom administrators to go and alter the workflows according to their needs. It offers configurable forms, which allows the tenants or the custom administrators to go and create ad hoc forms or even extend the existing ones. White labeling, which allows the tenants to configure the entire theme and logo as per their needs. Configurable reports, which allows the tenants and the customer administrator to quickly build reports from any application data. So these are some of the screenshots. As you can see, this is a screen from workflow module where you can very quickly drag and drop and entirely draw out the workflow according to the tenant's need. This is a configurable notification template where the tenant can themselves come and personalize the content as per their wish and do not have to get in touch even with the service team for this request. So this is the product analytic dashboard where you could see at a shot all the exceptions that are occurring in your product, and you could even see the timeline, the page size, the response time, and all the SLAs pretty much could be, technical SLAs could be pretty much monitored here. So having all these facilities into your product makes your customer service operations better and decreases the cost and effort required for that. Let's move on. Now this is a tenant management dashboard where very quickly customer service team can come, provision tenants and manage them, manage a subscription and so on. With that, we'll move on to the product engineering challenges. I'm sure all these points look familiar to you. These are the top concerns of most of the SaaS engineering team. Most of these factors are not a big concern on an on-premise environment as it is scattered to a single customer base, and hence load is not going to be extremely high. As it is also delivered within a network, the threat of attack is not high, and also the integration is quite simple because the on-premise solution and the other applications are going to be available within a single network. A SaaS model demands just not the business functionality to be addressed correctly, but to be delivered in a fashion so that it can scale infinitely, be highly secure, be highly extendable, integratable, and also configurable. Some of the basic architectural principles you need to follow while developing a SaaS solution are: scale out at all layers. Scaling at a web and application layer, most of the applications take care, and in fact it's easy because it's inherently supported by many technologies like Java and .NET. But scaling the database is the most difficult task, and from day one you will have to follow principles like data sharding. Now, this is a view of your multi-tenant database in its simplest form. So all your tenants are going to be shared in a single server, right? But you would still encounter a situation where a single tenant has a huge load, or even for security reasons, you might have to dedicate a separate instance for them. So the moment you encounter the situation, you have to deal with hybrid. Couple of tenants being in a shared database and some tenants being in a dedicated database. Now, when the load even further increases, you need to box tenants separately. For example, you need to go for 1 to 100 tenants in one instance, 100 to 200 tenants in another instance, and so on. By this sharding, you will be able to distribute load equally, and then your application will not only be able to scale from your web servers and application servers, which will also be able to scale from your database, which is most likely your pain point or bottleneck for scaling. Even further, you can both shard by tenants and also vertically partition it so that you would be able to have, say, module A's data for tenant 1 to 100 in server A and module B's data for 1 to 100 in server B. This is the utmost flexibility for scaling available in front of you, and if you get this right from day one, then you wouldn't have any problem later on for scaling. See, the other principles like multi-tenancy, it's a way to go in a SaaS world. As with increased number of customers, going single tenant is going to vastly increase your operation costs. For tight security, you have to in fact adopt OWASP standards and also automate the access control checks and the data isolation checks. Security is going to be the primary concern of customers while moving to SaaS. Any issues with data crossing the boundaries can lead to disasters, and hence it's very important to have a strong line of checks for both data isolation and access control built right at the base of your solution. For easy integration, you can open up SOAP or REST services and you can adopt webhooks. Webhook is a mechanism for calling back services in your on-premise, which will allow for a real-time integration. Nowadays, this has become a necessity for SaaS solutions to support. For configurability, think about what all could change between one customer and another and make them configurable, such as configurable data views, workflows, reports, email contents, and so on. Building all these are of course easier said than done. It does not only consume more time and effort, but it also requires great expertise because the approaches taken to address these problems have to be proven. These capabilities need to be brought right from day one, even before the development starts, and is therefore going to significantly delay your development time and hence the time to market. This puts the ISV in a tough situation because they have to choose now between a long-term goal of having a perfect solution with the short-term goal of hitting the market earlier. This is exactly where Cello can help you, where its engineering stack provides you more than 30+ modules covering security, configurability, enterprise edition, enterprise engines, integrations, ad hoc builders, and so on, and which primarily covers all the non-functional requirements that we just talked about. So the application can just take this engineering stack and plug in and can concentrate from day one on the business functionality. These are some of the screenshots. So this is where you can manage your granular level access control by mapping privileges. This is where you can manage the data partitions. You can spin off different instances. You can map different tenants to different partitions and group them. And this is where you can register events, map them to external systems, and make it easily integratable with the on-premise solutions. So as we saw, Cello offers all these functionalities that we talked about, and it has around 30+ modules, and it's very easily pluggable to your solution, right? So any stage of your application, you would be able to plug Cello in. As most of the functionalities are also available as services, any technology can talk to Cello. While you adopt Cello, you get the benefits of cost, time, and quality, and you would be able to exactly what we call as achieve a SaaS lifecycle management solution plus your business domain solution. The support and business feature can help you increase the operational efficiency 10x times, and it can also reduce your workload, support workload by 60 to 80%. Cello's engineering stack can add cutting-edge features and increase your product value, and also cut down the development cost and effort significantly. So with all these benefits, and when you adopt SaaS lifecycle management solution, you have the answer for a scalable and profitable SaaS business. With this, I hand over back to Janaki. Thank you.
Thank you, Jyoti. And I think that brings us almost to the end of our session. So just to give a summary here, these are some of the accolades we have been receiving for the kind of solution we have put together that we are addressing in Cello. Because one primary difference being a unified solution covering the end-to-end aspects of the SaaS lifecycle is something that Cello identified for its unique solution. And just to summarize the points that we went through earlier, one, SaaS is going to be a number game, and getting more customers is extremely vital, and not to ignore the selling and servicing related needs. So while you build your solution, it is very important that some of these elements are taken care into it. And monetization tools are definitely required to increase your selling capability. And then you need the customer service capabilities for your efficient operations. That way, once you get the customers, you don't lose them. So you keep providing them with a good quality of service. And also make your product extremely scalable. That way you don't encounter issues around the product scalability, the infrastructure related challenges, and the cost associated to that. And SaaS lifecycle management solution is the way to go. So don't look at just a SaaS solution, but look at as a SaaS lifecycle management solution which can help you in achieving the scalable and profitable business. So with that, we'll open the session for questions. So please feel free to use your questions window to pop up your questions, and we can take up some of the questions. We have 8 minutes left, so we can answer a few questions. And these are the contact details in case if you want us to drop an email for more information or any details around the topics we discussed today. We'll be happy to address it. So we'll wait for a few seconds for people to start throwing up questions. Okay, so we have got the first question here. Does Techcello support Java SaaS implementations? Jyoti, I'll leave that to you.
Yeah. So as we saw, most of the features are available as services and hence can be integrated with any technology, including Java, and especially the business edition related features and the customer service related features. And because the nature of it itself is pretty much pluggable and outside, can be a very big fit for Java.
Sure. I think there is another question associated to that. Does the SaaS framework integrate with CRM and ERP?
Of course, in fact, you would be able to make it integrate with any of the on-premise applications, and shouldn't be a problem at all if integration is what you're referring to. If you're referring to if this framework can be used inside or is used along with a CRM SaaS application and an ERP application, the answer is yes. In fact, some of our customers are in that space, and you would be able to completely plug and just plug in this framework or the modules offered by the framework to these SaaS applications.
Yeah, I think there's one other question which pretty much similar lines. But just to answer it, it sounds like Cello is designed to allow a SaaS solution to be built upon it as a base framework. How difficult is Techcello to layer on top of an existing production SaaS solution? I think like Jyoti rightly mentioned, the whole idea of this framework is to cater to the needs of both new SaaS solutions as well as solutions that are currently available. And as you could notice, many of the SaaS solutions today operate under a single tenant model, or what we call as a hosted model. So Cello is, once again, is a good fit for those cases where you can easily plug these features, these modules into your existing SaaS solution, and you can turn your solution, migrate your existing SaaS solution to be able to operate in a multi-tenant manner. You can bring in workflow capabilities, you can bring in the subscription-related management capabilities, tenant management capabilities. So it is very much possible to completely use Cello for an existing SaaS solution.
And to add to that, I mean, half of the spread of our customers are not actually started it upfront. They have integrated somewhere midway, and the integration is very easy. As we said, all the modules are independent by itself, and you just have to hook certain things using services, and it's very easy to do that.
Sure. We have another interesting question. How much time would it take to build all these capabilities? Well, we have been developing Cello for the last 2-3 years, so of course it's going to take a whole lot of time, but we would definitely not recommend doing that. It's, again, it's from one of the, if you look at the top 10 mistakes done by a SaaS company, they tend to focus on these underlying things, and then they tend to miss out the actual product strength, right? So we would recommend that SaaS companies, ISVs, should focus on the product strength, addressing the domain problem, addressing the business problem, then trying to build all these accessory related things, which is anyway already done, and there's no point in reinventing the wheel. So there is another question we have. So how does the NFRs like scalability, security, configurability differ from a non-SaaS product?
Exactly. So I think I'll also address this. So in a non-service solution, you're not going to have a huge customer base, right? Even if there is a customer base, it's going to be of a single customer. Here you're looking at multiple customers using your product, minimally, let's say 200, 250. And each customer having a lots and lots of workload, payload, and that payload increasing exponentially, and the customer base increasing exponentially. So you can imagine the scale that we are talking about, right? So if you are starting on the first year with 10 or say 25, 30 customers, and then next year you're moving to 50, then you're almost doubled the need for your scale, right? That's how scale is different. From a security per se, as I mentioned, the hack threat from a security on an on-premise lies only within that network, right? It's mostly just employees. But when you are making your system public, right, on and web, then you will have to prove it pretty much against all the hacks. So, and that's why security becomes more important. And also the fact that this particular solution that you're going to offer are going to be shared by different customers immediately pose a threat. So that's what you need to be very, very careful about from a security perspective.
Sure. There's one more question around what happens when my core business logic changes from tenant to tenant.
Yeah, so we also have different customers having this need, and that's exactly why we have built a module called Business Rule. Now, you can just take a taxation example, right? So the way the taxation is done by one country to the other is different, and maybe calculations done even from one customer to another customer in some other area like a purchase order or something could be different, right? So for this you could use something like a business rules engine that comes with Cello and achieve this configurability very easily. But the core idea is take out whatever could change from one customer to another and then make that configurable.
We have another question. How do I wrap my current product, which is not a SaaS, using Cello to make it a SaaS? Like Jyoti was mentioning, the entire services of Cello, functionality of Cello is available as services, web services. So if your product is a web application, it is extremely simple. by just invoking few APIs, few service calls, and that's all it requires to integrate the Cello functionality with your existing product. So I think that pretty much brings us to the close of this session, and we'd like to close this session with another simple poll. So you'd request you to probably provide your inputs as well, so that it will be helpful for us. So this is around if you have any plans around your building or migrating your existing product to a SaaS model, you could give an indication on the timeline. We'll leave for a few more seconds. All right. So once again, thanks everyone. Thanks for taking the time. I hope you found this session useful, and these are our contact details. So in case if you have any further questions, feel free to drop us an email, and we'll be happy to respond back to you. Thank you everyone, and look forward to meet you all during our next webinar. And we will share this presentation to all the participants as well as the people who have registered. So we'll be sending it through the email that you have registered for this webinar. Thank you and bye.